Since the new administration has taken power, there have been over 40 executive orders and actions signed by the president, which means a lot of things are happening very quickly that don't require any kind of congressional approval. So in this video, we're going to talk about which ones of those executive orders you need to pay attention to as a prepper. Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and today we're talking about executive orders and all these 40 plus executive orders and actions that have been signed since the new administration has taken over and how they might affect you directly as a prepper. People in the preparedness community have a lot of things to try to keep an eye on and try to absorb when it comes to information, and sometimes it's easy to lose track, especially when so many executive orders are happening so quickly. You might actually lose one of them in the process that actually affects you directly. So I figured I'd make this video to give you guys a quick rundown of what some of these orders are, and I just chose the ones that I felt like could actually affect you in the sense of preparedness or as just a person in your daily life. So keep those things in mind. We're not going to talk about all 40 different executive actions and orders. We're going to talk about the ones that will affect you as someone who's prepared, okay? Or trying to be prepared. And if you are trying your best to be prepared and you're worried about the direction things are going, then hit the subscribe button below, because everything is changing quickly and it's very hard to see what's happening here in the future. Many of you probably did not own a ton of GameStop shares, I'm sure of it. However, if you did, you'd be much better prepared now, wouldn't you? And like I said in one of my previous videos about ways you can beat 2021 as a prepper, I did talk about the stock market and the ways that it can definitely change very quickly right now in this volatile environment. And there you go, there's your example. So keep that in mind. These are different things that can occur in this year that we can move forward with and actually do better for ourselves with, okay? So executive orders, they're happening fast. They're all over the place. They don't require congressional authority of any kind. The president just gets to sign whatever he wants, and this is what happens. Now keep this in mind. There's been more orders signed in the last 2 weeks or 1 week, however many weeks, it feels like it's been a long time. There's been more orders signed than any previous president has signed in this amount of time. So there's a lot happening. So first off, executive order mandating that masks be worn on all federal property, okay? So federal buildings of any kind, that even includes things like the post office. So keep those things in mind. You might have to wear a mask in all these different buildings. I'm not saying that everywhere you go it's going to be enforced or who knows what. All I'm saying is that this is an executive order that could definitely affect you as somebody who's worried about being prepared. The same style of order applies to public transportation as well. So another order signed says if you're on a plane, a train, or in any form of public transportation like a bus, then you have to wear a mask, okay, if it's public transportation. So understand, another thing you have to be prepared for. What does that mean? It means you either need to have a mask with you if you're going to use any of this public transport, or you have to be prepared to not be able to board. Whatever it might be, things for you to keep an eye on as a prepper, okay? So one of the other executive orders was a reverse on how immigration policy was enforced. And what I'm saying about this isn't necessarily trying to dive into the rights and wrongs of immigration policy right now. What I'm saying is that if you live in a city that's considered a sanctuary city, or maybe you live on a border town or something along those lines, the way that those policies are being enforced is basically on hold right now until they figure out a better way to do things in the sense of the ideology that's in power now. So that being said, it is possible that if you live in one of those areas, this could affect you directly, because people who usually might have been prosecuted and held and possibly deported due to whatever crimes they may have committed might now still just be out there on the streets or not have the same kind of consequences that they had beforehand. And that is something as preppers and people who are worried about what can happen in our world and around our specific locale need to be aware of the fact that crime can be an issue that sometimes isn't actually fixed through some of these policies. So keep that in mind, because we know that sanctuary cities have a history of things like this happening, and you should be aware of this if you're in those areas, okay? So moving on past that, the permit for the Keystone Pipeline was revoked. What does that mean? Well, if you're working on the pipeline or you're in the energy industry, there's a good chance that you have some difficult times coming up ahead. You could definitely lose your work, especially if you're working on the pipeline, or the energy industry as a whole knows that things are about to get a little bit tight, and so your position in your career could be a little bit more affected than it would have been otherwise. And something you also have to consider as a prepper and somebody who's all around the country, no matter who you are, the whole point of the Keystone Pipeline was to lower energy costs for everyone. So without the Keystone Pipeline, you can expect these costs to start to rise. And I don't know about you, but I will say that in my area, it seems like gas is a little more expensive than it was before. Things to keep in mind, okay? So, moving on from there. Some of these might be considered positive based on whatever circumstance you have. So keep that in mind. I'm not trying to say everything here is negative. One of those could be this federal student loan program in the sense of repayments being paused. So he signed an executive order saying that he wants a pause on federal student loan payments for those who are affected by the pandemic and can't afford to make those payments. So if you're one of those people, this might be a good thing for you in order to put away some more cash or to pay some bills that you're behind on or whatever it might be. But this is something that will affect us as preppers if we're one of the people who has a federal student loan that we can't afford right now. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. That's an executive order that happened. Another one that definitely is going to get the attention of people in the preparedness community is supporting the states, like all the states using the National Guard for the pandemic response. And that will be funded directly through FEMA, okay? So we all know that the National Guard has been pulled in a million directions during the previous year and during the start of this year, and now they're gonna be even more supported in the sense of states using them to handle the pandemic. So whatever that means, you can kind of figure that out, I'm sure, when it comes to distributing supplies, when it comes to having places for people to get tested, when it comes to any type of enforcement that might need to be in position. These are things we need to keep in mind. And FEMA, if you're in the preparedness community, generally is looked at in a negative way because we all have ideas about how they're going to handle situations, and we've seen how they handle situations in the past. Keep that all in mind, okay? Moving on from there, another executive order signed, 15% assistance increase for food. When it comes to people who are on food stamps or EBT or in some sort of welfare program where they receive food benefits, they're increasing that by 15% in order to help the people who need it, in order to expand the amount of people who are covered. That was signed. If you're somebody who's trying to be prepared, but maybe you're on hard times and you're currently using food stamps or something along those lines, look into this because this executive order should help you, okay? So no judgment here on this channel, just giving you guys ideas about what's happening out there. I don't care what class of wealth you are in the sense of what you're able to earn or what kind of financial situation you have. It's still better to try to be as prepared as you can. And these things are things that you should probably pay attention to if you're on the EBT program, okay? Moving on from there, executive order asking for a freeze on federal debt and overpayment collections for up to 2 million veterans. So, it's through the Department of Veterans Affairs, and that could be considered a positive. If you're a veteran and you've had a hard time keeping up on your bills, dealing with the effects of the pandemic, and it's been difficult to pay back some of your federal loans or whatever it might be, you might be spared in this sense. So this could be one of those executive orders that might actually be a positive if it affects you directly. So keep that in mind. I'm just trying to throw out some additional ones out there for those of you who might have these special circumstances where it could find you some reprieve, okay? Moving on from there. This one is both ways. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'll let you guys decide. But I can tell you that as a business that employs a lot of people, this can be concerning because of the ramifications of allowing people to operate in this manner. And what I mean by that is that there's an executive order that wants the Department of Labor to look into ways to letting people decide whether or not they need to be unemployed. And what I mean by that is if you are uncomfortable with the current pandemic crisis and you don't feel like coming to work because you're worried about your health, you can just not go to work and still qualify for unemployment benefits. Before, it was that either your work was shut down and you couldn't work, or work was available to you. And if you denied it, if it's available to you and you're not going to take it, then you don't get unemployment because you're the one deciding not to earn income. Now they're saying, well, look, maybe they're afraid to go to work because of their health. They shouldn't have to if they're too afraid, so we should let them be out of work but still get paid anyway. And that's something that could be very detrimental to the economy. It could be very detrimental to your business. It could be very beneficial to somebody who doesn't want to work and wants to get money, and that's a possibility. Or if you are someone who actually is very concerned with your health, or you have underlying health conditions and being at work is a dangerous concept for you, then this could be beneficial for you. So like I said, this could go both ways depending on which side of the fence you're looking at it from. But this is an executive order that is out there right now, so keep that in mind. Okay, one of the last ones we're going to talk about here, because it is pertinent to preparers, is going to be stimulus payment executive order, where they're trying to develop better programs in order to distribute the stimulus payments out to everyone, including an online portal where you can check on your payment status, receive your check directly online, all those things. Now look, We don't want free money from the government. We'd rather the government just let us keep our money. We all agree on that, I'm pretty sure, especially here on this channel. However, if you are going to acquire a stimulus check, this should help at least expedite the process and get it in your hands faster and get you what you need to either survive, stay afloat, or, I don't know, buy some sweet firearms. That's not what I did. But anyway, just saying, these are things that we need to pay attention to in the preparedness community because they can affect us directly. And it's not like every single executive order out there couldn't possibly affect you in one way or the other, but these are the ones that I thought were the most pertinent to preppers and people in the preparedness community. And with 40 or so of these already being signed within the first week and a few days, you can expect a bunch more anytime soon now, I'm sure about that. So keep that in mind. Things are happening fast. It's hard to keep track. I'll try my best to keep everybody on board and on the same page. No guarantees. All right, so if you have anything else to add about these EOs that are happening all over the place, leave it in the comments below. Otherwise, that's going to be it for Magic Prep.